Welcome to the Fleet Safety Geeks podcast, where we discuss the latest industry trends, best practices, and strategies for keeping your fleet and its drivers safe on the road. Whether you're a fleet manager, safety professional, or a driver yourself, our goal is to provide valuable insights and actionable tips to help you prevent accidents, protect lives, and promote a culture of safety within your organization. From vehicle maintenance and driver training to regulations and technology, we cover it all. Tune in every week as we explore the challenges and opportunities of fleet safety in today's fast-paced, ever-changing world. All right, welcome back to another episode of Fleet Safety Geeks. I'm here with Phil Mosier. I'm Bob Mossing. Phil, how are you?
Good. How you doing, Bob?
I'm doing great.
Good to see you.
Yeah, it's another break between our last episode, but you were at a conference, and I think you presented.
Yeah, it was at the it was a combination Fleet Safety Conference out in Santa Clara,
Okay.
California, where the 49ers play. Boo, because they're playing the Eagles this week. And yeah, it was a good conference. Over 500 attendees, and there were some really good topics that obviously I was focused in on the safety side of the conference. But there were some very good presentations. It was nice to be at a conference once that didn't just focus on electric vehicles.
I know, right?
It was there was a large focus on safety, and enjoyed it. So myself and person I report to at Syneos Health, Kristen Leary, we presented on actually on personal safety,
Okay.
which is something I think that needs, and I think we did do a presentation on this, or an episode on this once, Bob. We probably need to revisit that because crime is really through the roof right now, and a lot of carjackings, a lot of vehicle thefts, a lot of vehicle break-ins, and at some point we need to cover that again.
Let's do it. I think you have plenty of information for us. Somebody told me that it was an amazing presentation. Oh wait, I think that was you.
I don't want to brag. So no, it was. I'll say it was well received. And again, I think people were just kind of hungry for some new information, different information at these conferences. The same
great.
things get rehashed.
Yeah.
So I was glad that it was as well received as it was.
Yeah, well, rehashing things is okay in my opinion because especially around safety, because you can never talk about it enough. And one of the things we're going to talk about today is safety, fleet safety during the holiday seasons, because the holidays come around every year, and I think it's important that we talk about it. So we have pretty good topics to talk about today to keep drivers safe during the holiday season.
Yeah, and between Christmas and New Year's, I think that these. So I did look up some things here, and I have it on my phone. According to the statistic I found, is saying 9,300 people are killed annually due to drunk driving between Christmas and New Year's.
That's a 1 week period. Yeah, that's crazy.
That's unacceptable. Unacceptable.
Right. You had another one that you looked up. How many fatalities actually in one day on Christmas Day too, right?
Yeah, it was over. I did look that up. Let me find it here again. This is covering all the holidays here, so they even have like people who are blown up with fireworks. So
Talk about
its averages on Christmas Day. It averages right around 300, on Christmas Day.
Right. So, and we're not just focusing on Christmas. There's a lot of holidays around, Christmas.
Correct.
That whole holiday season seems to have a lot of distracted drivers, a lot of holiday parties, a lot of family parties, and any holiday day during the holiday season, drivers can be impacted by that. So we need to focus on keeping people safe, making sure that you're responsible if you go to a holiday party with your company or your family. Make sure you have a designated driver or another way home, or don't leave, right? Stay there. Make plans to stay.
Right. Yeah, and let's throw winter weather in on top of that.
Of course, yes.
I mean, so there are any number of things that combine here that makes it dangerous. So, yeah, I mean, so you want to get into it and start talking about each one of these issues, which should not be issues, but they are. So let's talk about weather. So and people have heard me say this on this podcast before. There's a thing that I call SDA, which is seasonal driving amnesia. People forget that when it starts to snow, you're supposed to slow down, leave more time, give it, a greater following distance. Don't go blasting in the curves, and don't, push down on the accelerator real hard or the brake real hard. They forget that, oh yeah, the roads are slippery. The day I hated working, and I've said this a number of times when I was on the police job, was the first snowfall, the first significant snowfall, because I knew there were going to be a lot of crashes because people had SDA. So as far as the skids and everything like that, there are a number of different types of skids. There's a front wheel plow, that's called an understeer. An oversteer is where the back end slips out and comes around. And then there's the typical hydroplane or the four wheel skid. And people say, well, I have anti-lock brakes, I don't have I wouldn't get into a four wheel skid. But what happens is when the road is really slippery, the anti-lock brake is going to kick in pretty fast. And if you're plowing down on the brake, what happens is it goes to the skidding off, which is much better than just plowing out with the old standard braking system where you didn't have anti-lock. But it can really extend your stopping distance because it feels the skid so much faster. It's going to be on, off, on, off, on, off. And so it's going to extend your stopping distance. People think, oh, well, if I have anti-lock brakes, I can stop so much quicker. Not necessarily. It depends on the surface. Mm-hmm. And if you're on ice, nothing's going to stop you.
Right.
There are 3 ways you control: steering, braking, accelerating. If you're on ice, you can't control any of those. If it gets that slippery or if it's really heavy snow, park the car. Don't drive. Make the decision to be smart. And I don't mean park along the shoulder of the road. No, if you're out somewhere and you have distance to get home, get a hotel. I'd much rather have you do that. And I will say this: the company I work for, they'll say, hey, if it's bad and you have a long drive home, expense a hotel. Much rather have you do that than get involved in a serious wreck. It's just make the safety decision every time.
Interestingly, my fleet is a service fleet, and I've told drivers that, and they said, "Oh, okay, so we're going to tell my customer that I'm just going to stay at a hotel because the fleet guy said so." And I said, "Yes." And
that's exactly right.
Yeah, and if anybody comes back and is in any kind of trouble, come to me, and I'll tell them why we did that.
That's what I tell them as well.
Yeah, safety is more important than making that buck for the company. Revenue is important.
If you get involved in the crash, they're making it anyway.
Right.
They might not make it ever at all.
Exactly. I mean, they might die. Yeah, or get in a wreck or off the road.
Exactly. Or hurt somebody else.
Right.
So anyway. So as far as the different types of skids, Bob, let's talk about the understeer where the front end's playing out. What people do quite often is, they'll turn the wheel and it doesn't turn. So then they turn it more and it doesn't turn. Then they turn it more and it doesn't turn. And then if it regains traction, now they're going around in the loop. Mm-hmm. What you need to do there is you need to use what's called chop steering and focus your eyes on where you want to go. Let's say you're going down a ramp and you entered that ramp too fast. So now you're trying to turn, but it's plowing out towards the guardrail. If you focus on that guardrail, you're going to freeze. Look through the curve and use chop steering. It's like just real quick chopping motions, not extensive, just real quick chopping motions, because it'll bite you off a little piece of that curve. And then again, it's real easy for me to sit here and try and explain this, but that's probably your best thing. Ease off the gas, and if you can just do some quick stab braking, not again plowing down because you don't want to overload those front tires too much. Like quick stab braking might drop your speed down a little bit, but chop steering, stab braking might get. I just hit my microphone. I hope that's not too loud, but I'm doing my demos. I can't talk without using my hands. But that might get you, walk you around that curve.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing here, and when I learned skid training, and I went through skid training, I was amazed at, if I looked at the object I was heading towards, I hit it. If I looked away and looked where I wanted to go, I made the turn.
Interesting.
Use of your eyes here. Proper use of your eyes is very, very important. Look where you want to go. Okay. As far as an oversteer where the back end's coming around, this is one of the few instances in driving where your initial reaction is probably correct. So let's say your back end's coming around to your left, steer toward your left. don't go chop it right back, but just gently steer back towards so that the front end aligns with the back end. But as soon as you get that front end aligned with the back end, bring the steering back to 0. Okay, bring it back to center.
Right.
Because what happens is if you cut it over like that and you leave it hung out there, now the back end's going to swing out the other way. And that's where you get those fishtails. So as soon as that comes back, remember, bring it back to center. Okay, it's called recovery steering. Recover your steering. Okay, so that's a real important thing. And no brake here. Okay, because that's just going to, again, it's going to be like a top where the back end's going to spin around the front of the vehicle.
Right.
So no brake and recover your steering. Okay. As far as the 4-wheel skid, again, your anti-lock brakes are a good system. I see them a little unfocused here, but that's a better photo of me anyway, a better image of me. My camera. It's giving the viewers a better look of me. Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Anyway,
for those just listening to the audio version, we have a video version as well. And every once in a while, Phil's camera just goes to blurry, and then he's got to refocus.
Because so. It's like it's looking at me going. Yeah, but anyway, So and then as far as the 4-wheel skid and everything, again, Bob, there's the simplest way to avoid any of these skids is just slow down. Give yourself a greater following distance, 6 to 8 seconds if it's starting to snow. And if it gets so bad that it's heavy snow or ice, you just need to stop driving.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's all good advice. And it's easier to practice in a controlled environment to learn those things. But I got to tell you, every time when I'm on the road and there's some snow and I see someone lose control, it's panic. They're clanging on the brakes.
That's it. You have to stay calm, right?
Right. And I
You're
don't
right,
see
Bob.
that a lot.
They panic out. They go, oh no, and just start grabbing the wheel like they're white knuckled and pounding down on the brake and things like that. Yeah. You have to have a plan in your mind before it happens.
Yep.
Yep. And you're right. Practice is the best thing.
Yeah.
So
I'd love to go to a skid site to learn some of that.
It's fun.
I think it'd be fun. Yeah. And if we could record it, that would be really neat too.
Yeah.
So.
That's what we should record a session at a skid pan or with a skid car or something.
Let's think about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
All right.
So the skidding is related to the weather, snow, ice, and if you're practicing skids on the highway, probably a bad time because that the weather's bad. Maybe you shouldn't even be out there. But it's good advice to learn how to do that if you encounter some bad weather all of a sudden, which can happen in our area. This doesn't really affect too many people in California or Florida or Texas, but I mean it could happen anywhere with they still get snow, ice.
It could still happen with rain. I mean those skids happen with rain. Yeah. So it's all applicable.
Yeah, but like we just had almost a foot of snow in Cleveland, lake effect snow instantly. It was falling at 2 to 3 inches an hour, and the SDA came into effect. Not only did the warning say travel could be near impossible, only go out if there's an emergency.
Right.
Everybody on the road went off the road. So all morning, people were having to get rescued off the road because they went off the road. Tons of crashes. And we didn't have the worst of it. New York had 2 feet of snow from that lake effect event. So, I just hope people aren't out there trying to be heroes driving in bad weather. Just don't do it.
Right. And keep a check on the weather, right? I mean, I know there are storms that blow up that people aren't expecting. I've had it happen here, and I live in Pennsylvania, and that they didn't predict that we were going to get 12 inches of snow. Okay, and it hit you, unexpected. Okay, that happens. But most of the time, if you just keep a check on the weather, make the determination of am I going to work at home today or am I going to go out and drive, and think about what's it going to be like when I'm trying to get home. So you can't just say, well, it's clear this morning. I'm going to drive out 2 hours now in my territory, and I'll be okay. Well, getting out there, okay, but now what are you going to do when it's starting to snow and you're coming back?
Right. Yeah.
And all the other knuckleheads are out there, sliding into you as well. And you may think that you're a good driver in the bad weather, but what about the other people?
Yeah.
And that's what you have to consider. So, just keep a check on the weather forecast, for goodness sakes. Yeah, and same thing around the holidays. We'll just, while I'm going to be traveling to my to auntie's, house, which is 2.5 hours away. check the weather forecast. Family might be upset that you're going to be a little late, but it's better getting there late than not at all,
Right, right.
right?
That's a good segue. I don't know if it's in order of what we want to talk about, but there's a lot of knuckleheads on the road, and I love your
Yeah,
technical terms. Um,
yeah.
but we need to navigate around these knuckleheads, don't we? What talk about stressful driving during the holiday season, shopping,
Yeah,
getting stuff done, running errands. We need to navigate as fleet drivers around these people, and there's a lot more of them
right.
on the road. Talk about that for a little bit.
Yeah, so there sure are a lot. I mean, and you are probably one of those stressed out because now not only do you have your work schedule and all the stuff that goes along with that, but now and then year end, right? So you have year end, and you have to try and you have certain goals or whatever, and but now you're out there along on the road with people who are also stressed and rushed and things like that, and around the shopping areas, so the schedule can increase exponentially, and that creates stress, which causes distraction. So you got stressed out, crowded streets, and that's dangerous. So staying off the phone, staying focused on your driving, building enough time into your schedule, be realistic. Don't get off of that.
Right.
Just because it's the holiday and you have 12 things to do instead of 8 doesn't mean that there's more time in the day.
That's right.
Keep it realistic,
Yeah.
right? There's 24 hours in every day, whether that's around the holidays or not. And if you think, well, I can get 12 things done instead of 8 because I have all these obligations that I have to get done for work or for family or for whatever, it's not going to work.
Right.
There's still just 24 hours in a day, no matter what your demand is. Okay. And plan realistically, I think is the word. Be realistic. You can only cram so much stuff, right? It's not, and if you're having to rush around, and guess what? Rushing doesn't work. Yeah, if you're
Right.
trying to speed and catch up and you go, well, I got to get this done, I got to get this done, I got to get this done, guess what? The next traffic light, the next traffic jam, the next crash because somebody was rushing and wasn't paying attention, all that time that you tried to gain is lost.
Right.
It's not worth it. It's not worth the risk of being involved in a crash. So just be realistic and watch out for those, as we say, Bob, technical terms, knuckleheads who are trying to get those 12 things done instead of 8, and there's still just 24 hours in the day.
Right. Right. And we already have enough angry drivers on the road today, holiday season or not. People are just angry out there. They're driving fast. They're driving
Yeah,
reckless. They're road rage is more happening more often right now. And during the holiday season, with all that extra stressful driving, maybe be a little bit more patient. If
right.
somebody messed up and they're trying to merge in, don't cut them off. Don't hold them back. Just drop
Yeah.
back. Let them in
Go.
and just let
Right.
it go.
Have a little Christmas cheer.
Right. Well, don't hit the
And
cheer.
when I say Christmas cheer, I don't mean be cheerful. I'm not saying like drink a little Jack and drive down the road. I'm saying, I'm saying be nice,
Yes. Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And I always say that when you're driving. You know what? Here's the thing: be nice.
Yeah.
Don't be the aggressive, nasty driver. I love that, Bob. Let them in, right?
Yeah.
Just let them in. What's it going to cost you? Nothing.
Yeah.
And
But
now you have a driver who's less stressed because you allowed them in rather than the driver who's angry and is behind you because you didn't let them in. You want
right.
that person behind you?
Yeah. Just creates more
Come on.
stress, more opportunities
Right.
for crashes, and takes me
Right.
back to the movie Groundhog Day with Bill Murray. Don't
I
drive
love that.
angry.
Don't drive with the groundhog up on Punxsutawney Phil. He's like, don't drive side of the eye, side of the eye. I love that scene, man. It's a great shot. That is
Yeah.
that is classic. It's like, don't drive angry. Yeah, that's very good.
Yeah. All right. I may have taken us a little off path there, but that was just a great segue with some of that.
Okay.
What else do we have for the holiday season driving?
So obviously we always talk about impairment, right? You got the parties,
Yeah.
the family gatherings, the work parties and things like that. Obviously, watch your consumption, and that's consumption of all things that can impair. Um, So I love what you said during I think our last podcast. You said take an Uber, right? Take a, and we're not telling one over the other, Lyft, the Uber, whatever. Get a
Take a
ride
cab.
share
Yeah.
to go there, right? Because if you take that to go there, you don't have a car, you're not going to drive impaired, because once you become impaired, you think you're okay to drive. I never had a drunk driver that I arrested that said that they were, it was a good thing I got them. They said, "Oh, I'm fine. Let me, I can drive. Just follow me home," and things like that. I mean, and it
Right.
happened all the time, Bob, because in their mind, in their impaired mind, they thought that they were capable of safe driving. So you do have to make that arrangement prior. So why not, if there's a family gathering, or if there's a work related event, um, can you Uber it? Can you lift it? I mean, I think I'd rather have you do that, because now I know that you're not going to be trying to drive home after you became impaired and you think you're okay.
Right.
That's where good people get into trouble.
Yeah.
They think they're okay. They're not. They're impaired and they're on the road, and it causes thousands and thousands and thousands of deaths every year. There's no excuse.
9,300 between the week of Christmas and New Year's.
How bizarre.
Fatalities on the road due to drunk driving, impaired driving, any kind of impairment. Um,
Well, yeah,
yeah. So
that's
so
the other
make a
thing. I mean,
plan.
what else is being served now? With
Right. Yeah.
normalization, legalization. People think I'm a broken record saying it, but I'm really concerned about all the edibles and things like that. So be careful about what you're eating,
Yeah. Yeah.
and be careful about what you're sparking up with,
Yeah.
you know,
And I love it.
and watch your contact highs.
Yeah. Make a plan. If you know you're
Right,
going to be going to somewhere where you're doing some of that, take an
right.
Uber or Lyft. I love that. Plan ahead
Yep,
and
yep,
don't put yourself in a bad position at the end of the night. So,
yep.
good advice. What else we
So
got?
holiday travel.
Holiday travel.
So you have to drive, and we talked about it briefly there, driving to auntie's place. But let's say you get done work and you figure, well, I'm going to drive after work. Now you've put a whole day in, and now you're going to drive for 3 hours. Is that a good idea? Again, I think you have to be realistic here. I think one of the biggest problems, one of the problems, I should say, one of the big problems that occur is fatigue. Right? People trying to push through, and man, I'll tell you, I've investigated too many of those.
Yeah.
Where I absolutely attribute it to a fatal crash to fatigue. If you're feeling tired, well, listen, try to get enough rest beforehand, right? 7 to 8 hours of sleep at least. And if you're driving and you start feeling tired, stop. Have scheduled stops. So my wife and I drive to the beach in the Panhandle of Florida every year, and I know like where I'm stopping along the way. But if I start feeling tired in between those stops, I'll stop. Never, ever, ever try to push through. And people have a tendency of, once they're getting close to a destination, whether that be home or whether that be at auntie's or whatever, they have a tendency of increasing their speed because now they're anxious to get there. Well, if you're on a familiar road, let's say you're getting home and you're on a familiar road, now you're fatigued, driving on a familiar road where it makes you more relaxed, and you're at the most fatigued, and you're increasing your speed. So you got increased speed on familiar roads where you're relaxed when you're the most tired. And that's three things that really contribute to a lot of fatigue related crashes. So really just be very, very careful with the holiday travel and fatigue. And again, check the weather forecast.
Yeah.
You know, check the weather forecast and make sure that you've built enough time for travel to and from.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Yeah. And if you're fatigued already, you drove all day and now you have to go to a family's house and it's a 3 hour drive. You decide to drive home or whatever, and you've had a drink. I mean, you put a drink
right.
into a fatigued
Oh, no,
driver, they're going to even be more fatigued, even if it's
there's the
one
fourth
drink.
one.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, even one drink, Bob. If you're feeling fatigued, yeah, that's a really good point. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, so you've had. Well, I only had one drink. Well, you're tired already.
Right.
Now you're going to drink a depressant.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. You know.
Yeah.
So
Alcohol's a downer. I mean, it's gonna make you
yeah,
even more tired. Um,
Yeah.
and the other substance that's becoming legal, certainly that's gonna. Um, sorry about all the movie references, but what was the one with John Candy? Canadian bacon or something, like I don't know what
No,
it was,
Canadian
but
bacon. Yeah, I remember that was a well, you're
but
going way
they were like pulled over, and it's like, oh, sorry, was I going too fast? No, like, no, you were going 20.
yeah. Bob, most of the drunk drivers I arrested were going under the speed limit.
Oh wow, yeah,
Yeah, seriously. They're going under the speed limit. Well, it's a fluctuation speed, but I mean, a lot of times they were doing like 20 and they're hugging the line, right? Because they're like so concentrated on the line, trying not to wheeze so that the cops don't bother them. I wasn't speeding. Can you step out of the car, please? I mean, they're falling down impaired.
yeah, yeah.
Wow. But
And
I mean, I've had the ones that were doing, 80 miles per hour in a 35 zone also,
sure,
I mean, I had
yeah,
those knuckleheads as well. But a lot of the drunk drivers I arrested were actually under the speed limit.
right, right.
Yeah.
That's good to know. And using a cell phone is like drunk driving.
Right.
One example that we just experienced, my wife and I experienced, we were driving to Michigan for Thanksgiving. I wasn't fatigued, just totally rested, but um, the highway that we were on, leaving Cleveland, was 60 miles an hour, right? It's 60, in the city area. And the car in front of us, it was a van. It was going 50, and it was in the left lane, right, where everybody's trying to pass people. I'm like, what is going on with this van? So I get into the right lane to look at the vehicle. It has a flat tire on the right front tire. It's going 50 in the passing lane, and I get up next to the person, and they're on their cell phone.
Unbelievable.
Just like, and it was, that person was acting like they were under the influence of something.
All the same signs,
Yep.
and symptoms. People on the phone, they have all the same signs and symptoms as an impaired driver
They tend to slow down. They
because they're
tend to
impaired.
go out of their lane. They are impaired. It's an
Yeah,
impairment. Yeah,
it
it's
is
crazy.
unbelievable.
Yeah,
Knucklehead.
yeah.
So, one last thing I want to say. So, to give our listeners some pointers, if you see somebody who's going under the speed limit, if you see somebody who's weaving in even within their own lane, hitting the left line, hitting the right line, left line, right line, somebody hugging the line, they're using it as a guide. Somebody coming towards you with the high beams on, it's a classic sign of an impaired driver. Don't flick your headlights up on them. Just keep them in your peripheral, but look up and beyond and to the right if you can, but just keep them in your peripheral in case they come over. Um, just erratic braking, cutting corners short, cutting corners wide, not taking off at green lights or stop signs. These are all signs of impairment. If you see any of these things, get away from them. If you have a suspected impaired driver in front of you, keep them in front of you, because if they're in front of you, they won't hit you.
Right. We've
So
talked
just
about
some
that. I
other
wanted
pointers.
to bring
Yeah,
that up again, actually.
yeah.
What is the best way to get away from somebody who seems to be impaired or is driving
Take a different
reckless like
route.
that? Don't speed past them, right?
No,
It's going to happen while you're next to them, or it's going to happen when they're behind you. Yeah,
right. Your next stop sign or red light, guess what? They're coming up behind you. Do you want that?
right. That's a good point.
Right.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, keep them in front of you. They can't hit you if they're in front of you.
yeah. I like that. That's really good advice.
Yeah.
Um, in fact, one of the guests that we've had on many times, from True Software, uh, obnoxious phone is one of
Yeah.
them. But uh, they actually just put out on their LinkedIn page a survey question, and it's that exact question: like, what do you
Right.
do? Pass them or stay behind them?
Stay
And it
behind.
was in reference to one of our episodes. I thought that was really
Hmm.
neat. And
That's cool.
uh, it's going to be interesting to see what the results are from that, and what people
Yeah.
think is the right thing to do. The right thing to do is keep them in front of you. I like that.
Right. Yep.
Right on.
Yep.
All right. Well, we're at 30-minute mark.
Yeah, we are.
It's always good to talk about safety,
Yeah.
and you and I, when we get together, we tend to talk a lot. Hopefully, people
Yeah.
like to listen.
Yeah.
But either way, it's an important topic. The holiday travel season can be stressful. It can be dangerous, and we want to keep people safe. Get to your loved ones, and don't become a statistic. And have a great, safe, happy holiday.
Yeah. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, everybody, and whatever you're celebrating, I wish you all the best. Just be well, be safe, watch out for the knucklehead.
Watch out for the knuckleheads. I love it. All right, Phil. Well, thank you, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, thanks, buddy.
All right.
I'll see you.
Bye.
Take care.
Yeah, you too.